Happy Halloween, my darling. Mother Raven here with some Lovecraftian fun for your Samhain pleasure. I'm going to talk about grimoires, particularly in relation to Lovecraft. I'm getting this information from hplovecraft.com. Look for the link in the description. Frequently, Lovecraft made a reference to ancient, moldering tombs that contained secrets man was not meant to know. Most of these were fictional, but a few of them were legitimate occult works. By mentioning factual and fictional documents in the same context, this helped to make the false books seem real. Lovecraft made only brief mentions of these books, primarily to add atmosphere, and rarely described them in any detail. The best known of these fictional manuscripts is his Necronomicon, about which he said the most. So well constructed was his information on this fabled text, helped along by modern-day hoaxers bent on making a profit from the ignorance of others, or I would say also by inspiration, like Geiger's lovely book, that people to this day believe the book is real. I will continue on about the Necronomicon, or Al-Zif of Abdul Al-Hazred, one of Lovecraft's best-known creations. He refers to the Necronomicon in no less than 18 of his works. The original Arabic title of this manuscript was Al-Azif, being a reference to the nocturnal sound of insects believed to be howling of demons. Al-Hazred lived in Damascus, where the Necronomicon was written. In 1738 A.D., he was set upon by an invisible monster who devoured him publicly in broad daylight. The Al-Azif was translated into Greek by Theodorus Philaides of Constantinople, who gave it the name Necronomicon. Olaf Wormius then made a Latin translation in 1228. In 1232, shortly after Wormius's translation, Pope Gregory IX banned both the Greek and Latin versions of the volume. Wormius indicated that the original Arabic text was lost by this time. Dr. John Dee made a translation into English, but only in fragments of that version remain. You have to bear in mind that Dr. John Dee, Pope Gregory, obviously, were in fact real people. At present, a 15th century Latin translation exists in the British Museum, and the 17th century edition exists at the Bibliothèque Nationale in Paris, the Widener Library at Harvard, the University of Buenos Aires, and of course, the Miskatonic University at Arkham. Understandably, all of these copies remain under lock and key. The first appearance of the Necronomicon was in Lovecraft's The Hound, September 1922. Although Abdul Al-Hazred, the book's author, was mentioned earlier in The Nameless City from January 1921, it was in this later tale that the best-known quote from the Necronomicon first appeared.
"That is not dead which can eternal lie, and with strange eons even death may die."
One of the longest and more powerful quotes from the Necronomicon is from the Dunwich Horror.
"Nor is it to be thought that man is either the oldest or the last of earth's masters, or that the common bulk of life and substance walks alone. The old ones were, the old ones are, and the old ones shall be, not in the spaces we know, but between them. They walk serene and primal, undimensioned and to us unseen. Yog Sothoth knows the gate. Yog Sothoth is the gate. Yog Sothoth is the key and the guardian of the gate. Past, present, future are all one in Yog Sothoth. He knows where the old ones broke through of old, and where they shall break through again. He knows where they have trod earth's fields, and where they still tread them, and why no one can behold them as they tread. By their smell can men sometimes know them near, but of their semblance can no man know, saving only in the features of those they have begotten on mankind. And of those are there many sorts, differing in likeness from man's truest eidolon to that shape without sight or substance, which is them. They walk unseen and foul in lonely places where the words have been spoken and the rites howled through at their seasons. The wind gibbers with their voices, and earth mutters with their consciousness. They bend the forest and crush the city, yet many, not forest nor city, behold the hand that smites them. Kadeth in the cold waste hath known them, and what man knows Kadeth? The ice desert of the south and the sunken isles of the ocean hold stones where their seal is engraven. But who hath seen the deep frozen city, or the sealed tower, long garlanded with seaweed and barnacles? Great Cthulhu is their cousin, yet can he spy them only dimly. La, shrub, Nurg Ureth, as a foulness shall ye know them. Their hand is at your throats, yet ye see them not, and their habitation is even one with your guarded threshold. Yog Sothoth is the key to the gate, whereby the spheres meet. Man rules now where they ruled once. They shall soon rule where man rules now. After summer is winter, and after winter summer. They wait, patient and potent, for here shall they reign again.
So lovely, the magnificent and legendary Necronomicon. Let me finish this video with a story entitled The Book by, of course, H.P. Lovecraft. My memories are very confused. There is even much doubt as to where they begin, for at times I feel appalling vistas of years stretching behind me, while at other times it seems as if the present moment were an isolated point in a gray, formless infinity. I am not even certain how I am communicating this message. While I know I am speaking, I have a vague impression that some strange and perhaps terrible meditation will be needed to bear what I say to the points where I wish to be heard. My identity, too, is bewilderingly cloudy. I seem to have suffered a great shock, perhaps from some utterly monstrous outgrowth of my cycles of unique, incredible experience. These cycles of experience, of course, all stem from that worm-riddled book. I remember when I found it in a dimly lighted place near the black, oily river, where the mists always swirl. That place was very old, and the ceilings, high, full shelves full of rotting volumes, reached back endlessly through the windowless inner rooms and alcoves. There were, besides, great formless heaps of books on the floor and in crude bins, and it was in one of these heaps that I found the thing. I never learned its title, for the early pages were missing, but it fell open towards the end and gave me a glimpse of something which sent my senses reeling. there was a formula, a sort of list of things to say and do, which I recognized as something black and forbidden, something which I had read of before in furtive paragraphs of mixed aberrance and fascination penned by those strange ancient delvers into the universe's guarded secrets, whose decaying texts I love to absorb. It was a key, a guide to certain gateways and transitions of which mystics have dreamed and whispered since the race was young, and which led to freedoms and discoveries beyond the 3 dimensions and realms of life and matter that we know. Not for centuries had any man recalled its vital substance or known where to find it, but this book was very old indeed. No printing press, but the hand of some half-crazed monk had traced these ominous Latin phrases in unicals of awesome antiquity. I remember how the old man leered and tittered and made a curious sign with his hand when I bore it away. He had refused to take pay for it, and only long afterward did I guess why. As I hurried home through those narrow, winding, mist-choked waterfront streets, I had a frightful impression of being stealthily followed by softly padding feet. The sentried, tottering houses on both sides seemed alive with a fresh and morbid malignity, as if some hitherto closed channel of evil understanding had abruptly been opened. I felt that those walls and overhanging gables of mildewed brick and fungus plaster and timber, with fishy, eye-like diamond-paned windows that leered, could hardly desist from advancing and crushing me. Yet I had only read the least fragment of that blasphemous ruin before closing the book and bringing it away. I remember how I read the book at last, white-faced and locked in the attic room that I had long devoted to strange searchings. The great house was very still, for I had not gone up until after midnight. I think I had a family then, though the details are very uncertain. And I know there were many servants. Just what the year was, I cannot say. For since then I have known many ages and dimensions, and have had all my notions of time dissolved and refashioned. It was by the light of candles that I read. I recall the relentless dripping from the wax, and there were chimes that came every now and then from distant belfries. I seemed to keep track of those chimes with a peculiar intenseness, as if I feared to hear some very remote, intruding note among them. Then came the first scratchings and fumblings at the dormer window that looked out high above the other roofs of the city. It came as I droned aloud the 9th verse of that primal lay, and I knew amidst my shudders what it meant, for he who passes the gateways always wins a shadow, and never again can he be alone. I had evoked, and the book was indeed all I had suspected. That night I passed the gateway to a vortex of twisted time and vision, and when the morning found me in the attic room, I saw in the walls and shelves and fittings that which I had never seen before, nor could I ever after see the world as I had known it. Mixed with the present scene was always a little of the past and a little of the future, and every once familiar object loomed alien in the new perspective brought by my widened sight. From then on I walked in a fantastic dream of unknown and half-known shapes, and with each new gateway crossed, the less plainly could I recognize the things of the narrow sphere to which I had so long been bound. What I saw about me none else saw, and I grew doubly silent and aloof, lest I be thought mad. Dogs had a fear of me, for they felt the outside shadow which never left my side. But still I read more, in hidden, forgotten books and scrolls to which my new vision led me, and pushed through fresh gateways of space, and beings and life pattern towards the core of the unknown cosmos. I remember the night I made the 5 concentric circles of fire on the floor and stood in the innermost one chanting that monstrous litany the messenger from Tartary had brought. The walls melted away, and I was swept back by a black wind through gulfs of fathomless gray, with the needle-like pinnacles of unknown mountains miles below me. After a while, there was utter blackness, and then the light of myriad stars, forming strange alien constellations. Finally, I saw a green-lit plain far below me, and disconcerted on it the twisted towers of a city built in no fashion I had ever known, or read, or dreamt of. As I floated closer to that city, I saw a great square building of stone in an open space, and felt a hideous fear clutching at me. I screamed and struggled, and after a blackness was again in my attic room, sprawled flat over the 5 fluorescent circles on the floor. In that night's wanderings, there was no more strangeness than in many a former night's wandering, but there was more of terror, because I knew I was closer to those outside gulfs and worlds than I had ever been before. Thereafter, I was more cautious with my incantations, for I had no wish to be cut off from my body and from the earth in unknown abysses, whence I could never return. So quoth this raven, and a happy Sabbath to you all.